live. It's just starting, so I'm going to wait a few minutes. I'm still getting everything set up. So I will wait for a few. It's a little bit before 11 o'clock still, so we're good. Just going to check to make sure we're actually live. Good morning. Hello. Good morning to everybody just joining. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for my iPad to catch up with live so that I can watch the comments on my iPad. Just getting set up. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions from yesterday, go ahead and drop them in the comments. As soon as I can pull the live up, I'll be able to see them. I don't know why it takes forever on my iPad. Let me see. I'm going to close out and go back in and see if that helps. So I was really hoping, I wish that I could, there we go. Hello. Sorry about that. Forgot to mute it. I was really hoping that I could have some Christmas music playing while we're sewing, but I can't. I don't have the rights to any of it, so I can't have it in the background, but I have a little TV over here that I have in my sewing room, and right now I just have a little crackling fireplace on, so it'll have to do. It's kind of cozy though. Ooh, Tracy, 8 degrees. Ooh, cold. It's actually supposed to be 50 here today. It was, what was it? I don't know. It's been like for a week that we've had 30s for the high, which is kind of low for us at this time of year. Usually we're in the 40s. 30s and 20s really don't hit until like January, February. But we've had that like lows in the teens at night. So 50 degrees today is going to be really nice. Good morning, Yvonne. Okay, let's see. We are, in case you are new joining the live today, you didn't see yesterday's live, we are making a holiday version of the Stirling bag, which will look like this. Here's the silver one that I made. Today I'm making gold. So I'll have a silver and a gold. Yesterday in the live, we cut out everything, talked hardware, and talked about my little town. If you're in my group, you can see the tree lighting photo. I posted a little video in there. That was a lot of people. Good morning, Nancy. Hi, Mom. My mom's here. Mom, you have to post your bag. I know you don't usually post in Facebook. When you get yours done, I want you to post it in our group. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started? I think if you're gonna make the recessed zippers, sorry, not the recessed zippers, I don't know what I'm saying. If you're gonna make the hidden strap connectors, we have those 4 strips. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And then that way, if someone is not making the recessed zippers, they can still be getting themselves set up and situated and all that. I am going to angle the camera down a little bit more so you can see. It might cut off my head a bit, but you'll be able to see the machine a little better, and I think that will help for the tutorial aspect of this video. All right, still trying to figure out, I don't want this to drop on the floor. I have clips everywhere. All right, I'll probably still be moving stuff around. I don't know. I don't know where to put things. All right, so if you're with me, we're gonna go ahead and grab these 4 little hidden strap connectors. Move the camera down a little bit. All right, let me know if you guys like this angle or not. Like I said, I'm a little bit out of frame, but that's okay. All right, so on the back side, you can use a ruler if you want to help. We're just gonna draw a line down the center on the back side. And we'll do that for all of them. And then what we're gonna do is, fold the long sides into the center, and then we're gonna top stitch down those long sides. Hey Jean, good morning from Cape Cod. How is it on Cape Cod? I have only been to Cape Cod once and I absolutely loved it. I was only actually, well, I should say I was driving through Cape Cod. We went to Nantucket for the weekend, and so I didn't really get to spend a lot of time on the Cape, but it looks gorgeous. Okay, I am going to use double-sided tape because you guys know, if you follow me for a while, you know I love double-sided tape. And then I'm just gonna put, this is 1/2 inch double-sided tape. I'm just gonna put it right on top of that line. When I remove the paper backing, you'll be able to see the line through the double-sided tape. Sunny and 42 degrees, that's pretty good. I'll take sunny and 42 for the winter every day. Okay, now for the back, just going to remove the paper backing, and I'm going to fold each long side into that center line. So we have something that looks like that, and then we're going to top stitch down each long side, top stitch at 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to get mine, all 4 of mine prepped, and then I'll just sew them all at the same time. Nancy, you're in Rollinsford, New Hampshire. I don't know. My geography is terrible when it comes to the small states in the Northeast. Like, I know they're all around there, but I think New Hampshire is west of Massachusetts. Is that right? It's by Vermont, right? This is terrible, I know. I think because we drove from New York, so I think we just drove through Connecticut and then Massachusetts. I think this was also a very long time ago. Let me tell you, it was probably about 22 or 23 years ago. So I'm gonna blame time on my loss of memory as well. Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Okay, perfect. To the ocean border of outside Dover, 11 miles to the ocean border of Maine. Nice. Massachusetts is south. Okay, good. All right, so I wasn't too far off. All right. Now that I have all 4 done, I'm going to sew at 1/8 of an inch down each long side. My husband has cousins that live in Maine. We've never been up to visit, and I would love to visit, just not in the winter. I've seen pictures of Maine in the winter, and I think they're near the coast. And I'm just like, it looks rugged and beautiful and like amazing, but not in the winter, not for me. I'll come in the summer. Also because if it's by the water, I want to go to the water. You know, even though I know I'm not like going to be swimming off a beach in Maine, even in the summer, that's too cold for me still. But I would like to be able to go down to the water and stand there and look at it and listen to the waves and all that. And just like, we saw the water, everybody back in the car, quick, back to the heat. All right, so our hidden strap connectors are done. Good morning to everybody just joining. If you didn't get here at the very beginning, we're just making the hidden strap connectors first, and then I know some people might be using hardware instead, so I thought this would be a good thing to get started with, and then it doesn't really, nobody's behind if you're not making the hidden strap connectors. Yeah, Nancy, very calming to sit in the rocks at Nubble Lighthouse in York, Maine. I'm gonna have to check that out. I really would like to come up to the Northeast and visit more. Okay, we have these 4 done. Once you have them done, we can just set them to the side and move on to the next. All right, let's go ahead and grab our bow pieces, because that's like the fun and different part of this bag. And it's fun just to like get some work done on it first, and then we can see how it all goes together. But let's just go ahead and get our 3 bow pieces. The other thing you're gonna need, if you don't have it close to you, you are going to need some thread and a needle, like a hand sewing needle. We're not going to have to sew, like push the needle in. We're just going to be wrapping it around the bow to help hold it in place. So just if you don't have one handy, I'm using, like this needle I'm using is kind of, I don't know if you can see, it's a little bit, it's bigger. It's more like an embroidery needle, because I just need it to hold the thread so that I can wrap it around the vinyl for the bow. So I'll give everybody a second to grab that if they don't have it already. All right, and then starting with bow piece 3. Bow piece, almost sounds like Bo Peep. Bow piece 3. This is the long tab, the one that we made a little bit longer than the pattern piece. We're going to do the same thing to this that we did to the hidden strap connector. So we're going to draw a line down the center. And mine is, let me see, let me grab my little bit bigger ruler because this is a little wider than 2 inches. Beth is here. Beth. Hi, Beth. Thank you for joining me, Beth. I'm excited you're here. I'm excited everybody's here, because it would be really awkward if nobody was here and I was just talking to myself. All right, so bow piece drawn down the middle. Like I said, the same thing that we did on the hidden strap connectors. we're going to fold the long edges into the center and then just top stitch along the long sides. I will say if you're making the 75% size, if you decided to make yours a little bit smaller, you could trim off about 1/4 inch. I think I mentioned that in the cut video yesterday, just to make this piece a little bit more narrow since your bow in general will be smaller. But this one will work for the 75%, or if you're doing it at 100%, it'll work for that as well. Sorry, the 85% or 100% for this one. Alright, so this is our centerpiece that's going to wrap around like that. In essence, it'll be hidden in the inside back of the bag so you won't see this back part, and then our bow will come out from there. Alright, so we have that part done. Let's grab our bow piece 1. And so that one should be wider than it is taller. And so on this top and bottom edge, we're going to fold back. I'm going to draw a line at 1/2 of an inch in, and then that's where I'm going to fold the edge of that fabric into. So we want 1/4 of an inch fold, basically. So I'm going to use, let's see, I have somewhere, here it is. I have 1/8 inch double-sided tape. And this is not going to be super strong, but it should hold it enough so that I can take it to the machine and sew it down. So I'm just putting the double-sided tape to the outside of that line that I drew. Let's see, you can see a little better on this one. So the line is right there, and then the double-sided tape, and then the edge. And then we're just going to remove that paper backing and fold the edge up to the drawn line that you made. So, like that. And I'm going to take mine to the sewing machine. Before I do the other side, I'm going to top stitch this down at 1/8 of an inch from the edge, just because, as you can see, it's starting to lift up. So I don't want to worry about that while I'm working on the other side. So I'm going to do this side first, and then I'll fold the other side and sew that one as well. Good morning, Sandra. So there we go. that's the sewn edge. There it is from the back. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. All right, and then top stitch, again, 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. To rethread. I ended up pulling my material away before the needle was all the way up and it popped the thread. All right, there we go. All right, so there is our bow piece 1, both sides top stitched, folded over on those long edges. We're going to set this to the side just for a moment. We're going to make the other piece and then we will fold everything and pull out that needle and thread. This is the only time we're going to need the needle and thread. So it's good to get that part over. Plus it's fun to make the bow. All right, so bow piece 2, which is this strangely shaped. All right, what we're going to do with this one is we're going to fold it in half long way. So like this, we're going to match up this long edge. So almost like a little hot dog bun. We've got the points at the ends. And I'm going to use double-sided tape. It's just a little easier for me also when I'm trying to show you different parts of what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to put a couple little pieces here, a little piece at the point, and then a little piece at the long edge. And like I said, we're just going to fold it in half like a hot dog bun. Good morning, Pinky. No worries. We're just getting started, really. We just worked on our hidden strap connectors, and then we are on to the bow pieces. So that's really all we've done. All right, so I'm matching up the straight edge here of the short side. All right, so it should look like this. And then what we're going to do is we are going to top stitch all the way around, but we're going to start here at like where this raw edge is. So we have the folded edge down here. We're going to start here in the middle, top stitch, come all the way down to this point, all the way across, back up and around, 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Let's see, I want to go a little bit further, I think. There we go. All right, so the reason that we started top stitching in the middle here of the short edge is because this is going to be the tails for our bow. It's going to fold down like that, and it's going to be hidden inside this little piece that, you know, the center piece that we're going to wrap around, so you won't see where you started and stopped. Now the other thing I will say is if your material is not even here, you can trim it up. And mine is, like you can see right here, there's a little bit. So I'm just gonna hop over to my cutting mat. I'm gonna trim these sides to make sure they're all nice and straight. And then I'll be back to show how we put the bow together. All right, there is that piece, and then we have our main bow piece, and we have our center piece. So let's go ahead and thread some thread onto our needle, onto our hand needle. I'm just going to pull some off my sewing machine here. I just have a piece about this long. It doesn't really matter as long as you have enough. We're going to end up wrapping it around the bow 4 or 5 times, just enough to hold it in place. And this part doesn't have to be perfect or pretty. Again, it's going to be hidden under that, under this center strip, so we don't have to worry too much about it. All right, so I'm going to put my needle down. All right, and then let me move these pieces over here. So this is the part now we get to fold our bow. This is going to make our wrinkled part of the bow, the main part. So it's up to you how you want to fold it, how many folds you want to have in it. If you have, in this one, I have 3. Let's see, you might be able to see there, 1, 2, 3 folds. So I think that looks pretty good for this bag. If you wanted more or less, that's totally up to you. So I'm going to do that for my bow. So if you want 3, you can follow me. Or this is also a good spot to just play around and see what you like. So for the 3 folds, we're going to fold it in half, wrong sides together. And then think about, you want to do another fold here, so we're going to fold it up about half and then down about half. So you have like that. Think about when you were making, you know, when you were in elementary school and you were making fans out of sheets of paper instead of doing your schoolwork. It's kind of like that. We're kind of making vinyl fans. So like that. Okay. Now for this one, I'm going to hold this with one hand. Once I like it, once it looks good, I want to hold it in the center as much as possible, as much as you can get it in the center. And then we're just going to take our thread, and I'm just going to hold the one end down with my hand, and we're just going to wrap it around. I'm actually going to, I don't know if you can see this, I'm just going to feed it through where the knot is at the other end. and pull it tight. And then this is also a good time. We can kind of check it to see. I know I'm not in the middle right now. So I'll slide the thread over to be in the middle. Let's see. Yeah, I'm almost in the middle. Let's see. Okay. A little bit more, I think. Yeah. All right, so I'm just pulling it tight. Let me see. No, still a little bit more. Okay, let's go right there. I did cut it a little wider, so we have a little extra wiggle room too. Let me just double check. So my piece is 9 inches wide, and I'm trying to get this string in that center mark as close as I can. All right, so once you have it in the center, you're just going to wrap your thread around 2-3 times, and that's it. And that's going to hold your bow like that. Okay, then you're going to take, and if you would prefer, if you're afraid of it coming loose, you could always just do a little slip knot right there to help hold that. So you know it's not going to go anywhere. You set it down and it'll be fine. All right, let me cut off these extra strings here. All right, now we're going to take our bow piece, and with the longer points towards our body, so the folded edge is down towards the bottom, the raw edge is up towards the bow. We're going to, I'm just going to find the center spot and kind of just like scrunch it, like fold it in half, scrunch it so that it can come up to the center of the bow there. And then we're going to wrap the thread around that one as well. So now we're wrapping it around the center bow and then the tails part. Another little slip stitch here on the back. Slip knot, I should say. And this just has to be, it doesn't have to be like super tight or professional. It just needs to hold it until you can get it, we get it all sewn down. So I'm just adding a couple little slip knots. My thread's getting short, so I think I'm gonna have to cut it to get the needle out. Okay, so that's what my bow is looking like right now. You can play with it as we work the bag and get it sewn down. This will come down a little bit more as we get these placed on our bag panel. But that's what you should have. Let me know if anybody has any questions on that, or if you need me to explain any part of that again. So this bow part, we're just folding like a fan, and I did it in 3 folds. So I folded it in the center, wrong sides together, and then I did one more fold on either side of that, and then just wrapped it all around. Once you get this done, we're done with the hand needle and the thread. We can put that away. We don't have to worry about that again. All right, so now that we have that, we can set the bow to the side. Just keep your bow piece and the center piece off to the side. We're going to start to put the main panels together. So we will grab this. We're going to do the back side first so we know how the main panels go together, and then we'll come to the front side. We'll attach the bow to the center, and then we'll build the front side of the bag. So we're going to set these to the side for now. Let's grab our center and side panels for the back and our top and bottom band for the back. I'm going to grab one more tool and then I'll be back and we can start to put that back panel together. All right, so bottom band, top band, and then we have the one center panel and two side panels. Sandra, yes, isn't this gold pretty? This is from Lauren, from More Me Know. I don't know if she has any more, but I love it. It's very pretty. It's not, it's shiny, but it's not like glossy. And I can't remember what exactly it's called, or if it's just called like Luxe, you know, Luxe vinyl. I'm not sure, but it's definitely pretty. All right, so what we're gonna do with our center and our side panels, so this is the center, this is the side, we're gonna put them right sides together, lining up the right edge. And then we're gonna sew down this edge at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, once we get that sewn, we're gonna open it up and then butterfly open this seam. So we're gonna push each side to its own side. So we're laying that flat. And you could use double-sided tape here, but it's a short distance, a short amount, so I usually don't. I just kind of hold it with my fingers, flip it over, and then we're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch down each side of this seam. Oh yeah, silver with a gold bow, that would be really cute. I was also thinking you could do like some really fun, like, depending, this might work better with the smaller one. Let me grab the smaller one and I'll tell you the idea I was thinking. All right, so this is a smaller version. This is the 75% size. So I was thinking if you had your bow, maybe you made it a little bit taller, or you just didn't fold it as much so that it spread out a little more. If you went to the edges and then you did this color in the same as the bow, but did this color, same top band and bottom band, then it would look like you had like a big piece wrapped around it and tied in a bow in the front. Wouldn't that be so cute? Of course, I haven't tried it yet, but I thought, oh, that could look really cute. Anyway, just another idea. Oh yeah, red glitter, a white purse with a red bow, red glitter with a black glitter bow. There's so many ideas. It would be so fun. Like if we all lived together and we all made a holiday Stirling and all went to a holiday party with our bags. I would love that. That would be amazing. That would be so fun. All right, so here's our center panel and the right side. Then we're going to take our other side panel and we're going to do the exact same thing, attaching it to the left side of the center panel. We're going to sew at 1/4 inch seam allowance and then flip this open, butterfly open the seams like that, like that's how it looks on the back side there. And then we're going to top stitch this one as well. Pinky, thank you. Isn't it cute? I mean, I love it with the bow, but also thank you for saying that about the pattern. I love this pattern too. And I find it, like I carried it for a long time. I have a different bag right now because I'm secrets. I'm revealing secrets. Anyways, I'm using a different bag right now because I'm testing out a new pattern. So I have that one that as I am making new patterns, designing new patterns, I will make one and then I will carry it for a while and see how I like it and see how it works. Is it comfortable? Is there any part of it that I don't like, that I wish was different? I kind of do this little like road test for my bags before I release them. So I'm currently doing that with the bag that I have right now. But I do have a Stirling that I absolutely love. It's kind of like the one that I have all the time. I just find it like really comfortable to wear. I think it looks good. And I usually get a lot of compliments on it too. Beth is here for the secrets. Beth, you know all my secrets. And my mom, if you're still in here, you should still be in here. She has one that she carries a lot. And she's gotten several comments on the one that she was carrying. So Mom, if you're in here, go ahead and tell everybody. Just drop a comment and let everybody know. I thought it was funny on hers is that she didn't think she used different shades of cork, like the same color but a different shade, because she didn't have, no, I'm telling her secrets. She didn't have enough of the same color. So she ended up using a different shade and she was like, I don't know, it's a different shade. It doesn't match. And that's the bag that she gets all the compliments on. So I just thought, how funny, you know, we always we're our worst critic, but then other people just love it. So, all right, there is our center piece. We have the center piece here, the two side pieces here. Now we're going to take our top band, which is the skinnier one, and we're going to lay it, there she is. She said, I'm here. Okay, you're here. Talk about your bag. I know you probably don't want to do it because you're sewing. All right, so what we're going to do is on the top of our panel, and this is solid, so it doesn't matter, top, bottom, it's the same, but we're going to place our top band right sides down with the top of our center panel, and we're going to sew this one at 1/4 inch seam allowance. once we get that sewn on, we're going to flip that up. We're going to flip it up, and we want the seam allowance going up towards the top. So we're not butterflying this one. We just want it pushed up towards the top band. And then we're going to top stitch right along this folded edge at 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, so that is our top band. Now we're going to do the exact same thing to attach the bottom band. So on the other side of our panel, we're going to lay it right sides together. So at 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then fold that down, keeping the seam allowance down towards the bottom, and top stitch. I feel like once we get our other panel done, we have our bow done. These panels come together really quickly, and once we have our other one done, the whole bag just kind of just comes together so quick. All right, there is our one side complete. Now, I will say, I think I want to do the hidden strap connectors on this panel before moving on to the other side. I just think it'll be easier just to kind of get this one like completely done, and then we can move on to the other side. And once we have this one done, it's easier also to do it all on the one without the bow, because once we have the bow on there, it adds that, you know, bulk there in the center. So we'll do this one. It's easier to get everything down, and then we'll move on to the other side. So I'm going to grab 2 of my strap connectors. I also need 2 D-rings. There they are. I think my strap connectors, yeah. All right, 2 strap connectors and 2 D-rings in the panel. All right, Yvonne, thanks for joining. And yes, make sure you catch the rest of it if you can, because at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about, I keep mentioning this because I don't want you guys to let me forget, but I have a little challenge that I want to announce. So make sure you come back. But thank you so much for popping in. All right, so the hidden strap connector is where we're going to put on each side of the center panel. We're going to have our strap connector there. So for this one, I'm going to measure. I use this little tool. If you can see, it's from Leslie at Jolili Creations. It's her hidden strap connector tool. And there are little, I don't know if you can see, it bumps up right here. This is for 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch strap connectors. And then on this end, let me see. I don't know if you can see, I'm gonna put paper behind it. You can see, like, this is a little guide for placing your rivet. So you would use these as match these up with your stitch lines, and then you know your rivet is right in the center. So if you don't have one of these, this is a really cool tool to use. So this is what I'm going to use. Now, what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to measure first where I want my connector to be. So I'm going to measure in, and I usually there are measurements in the pattern, but for this bow pattern, the bag with the bow, I just kind of eyeball it as I'm doing it. I just look at where I think I want the strap connectors to be. So I'm going to put this one, so where I'm measuring is the center seam between these 2 panels. So that is my starting mark. And then I'm also lining it up with this fold from our top band. So where I'm measuring it is going to be a 1/2 inch over and a 1/2 inch down. So a 1/2 inch over from the center seam and a 1/2 inch down from this top folded band. And then right from there, I'm going to take this tool, this little template marker, and I'm going to line it up. There's a line down the center, so you know that you're lining it up right in the middle of that mark. And then using my pen, and you can do this from the back as well. I'm using this is a friction heat erasable pen. So I just like marking on the front, and then I will remove the markings before. Now it's heat erasable, so I'm not going to put the iron right on it, but it also comes off really easily with just some water. So you can just wipe it right off too. All right, so I'm going to mark these first. So I'm going to come over now on this side, a 1/2 inch over and a 1/2 inch down. So if you don't have, let me just say, if you don't have this tool, what this tool does is it creates a little shape like that. So that's going to be where we're going to cut our fabric to put the connector in. So it ends up measuring, think of it, if there was a line across the bottom, it would be like, I think, what is that, a trapezoid, where it's longer on the bottom, shorter on the top, and then angled in. Since I'm doing 1 inch strap connectors, the bottom of the trapezoid is 1 inch wide. Then it is a 1/4 inch up to that top shorter line, and that top shorter line is 3/4 of an inch. So this one here is 3/4 of an inch wide. If there was a line across the bottom, that would be 1 inch wide, and then these side lines just angle out to connect the top and bottom line. With the tool, I just I just trace around the top and the sides, and then that's what I know where I need to cut. So if you don't have that, that's how you can measure. If you want it to be 1 inch wide, then it's 3/4 of an inch at the top. If you had 3/4 of an inch strap hardware, then it would be 1/2 of an inch, and it's always 1/4 of an inch between them, and then the side lines are just angled out to that edge. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to use my seam ripper and just go right in the middle. There we go. I'm just going to make a slit here in the middle on the top line. And then with my scissors, I'm going to come in. So I just wanted to get it started with my seam ripper, and then with my scissors, I'm going to come up to that point where it angles out, and then I'm going to snip down. And then same on the other side, snip to that corner point, and then I'm going to snip down on the angle. So I've made a little cut like this. And you do not cut out this tab. You just let it be a little tab right there. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And then if you're not doing hidden strap connectors and you are using strap hardware instead, you can, hopefully you already are, but just go ahead and install your two wherever you would like. So usually when I'm doing strap hardware, obviously you want it down the same, but I'll just like hold it in place and figure out what I think looks good, and then I will mark it and put it in. So there are measurements in the pattern if you want to use that for a reference, but if you don't like them, if you'd want to move your strap connector somewhere else, please feel free to do that. All right, so to install the hidden strap connector, if you've never done this before, you're going to take one of your straps, your little connector straps, and with the folded side, so this is like the back side where your seam is here in the center, you're going to have that facing up towards you, and then you're going to slide it inside of that little opening that you made. So like that. So I just slid it in there. The little tab is still in the front. That's what it looks like from the back. I have it overhang maybe, as long as it's somewhere in the middle. Right now this one's overhanging about 1/2 of an inch. But we have this center line up towards us, which might feel backwards, but we're going to end up folding it down so you won't see it. If you had it the other way around, and then you folded it down, you would see that seam right down the center. All right, so once we get that installed, right above, so right here is our little tab. So just above that, maybe about 1/8 of an inch, we're going to sew straight across. But you want to start and stop pretty much where your stitch line is for the strap. You don't want to go past it, and you kind of don't even really want to go to the end. You just want to have that hold in place. If you go past it, or if you go all the way to the end, you're going to see that when we put our hardware in. So I would recommend not going all the way to the end. I usually drop my needle right where that stitch is. And even if I'm a little bit shorter than that top stitching line, that's okay. I'm throwing my threads in my clip bag, in my clip jar. All right, so there it is, top stitched on the top part. You see the little tab is still free. And then on the back, that's what it looks like, just top stitched right above that section there. All right, and then we're gonna take our D-ring, slide it on. So the flat side is towards the inside, and then when you flip it over, you should see the top of your D-ring. We're gonna take this tab end and push it through the same opening. So this time we're taking the tab that we cut, we're taking it with us, so we want that to flip through to the inside of the bag. And then we're just gonna pull. We're gonna pull that strap down. And so on the front, we want it snug, but we don't want to pull it so tight that it's pulling the bag out of shape. So here it is from the back side. I just pulled that through. You can see the little tab is in the back as well. And then from the front, that's what it looks like. All right, so now to secure this in place, we're going to flip the main panel back, and I'm holding that little tab right there onto the strap. I want to hold it as securely and snugly as possible, and then I'm going to bring it over here to my machine, and I'm going to, again, starting in a stitch and stopping in a stitch, I'm going to go back and forth here, securing that tab. All right, so I told you guys that I had on the TV a little fireplace, right? It just switched over to an old abandoned treehouse in a forest, and it's raining. Like one of those like mood sleep kind of things. I'm like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the fireplace. All right, so there is our strap connector all secured like that. And then here is where, and I will add these, I will add all the rivets at once because I have to go over to my cutting table to do that. Or I guess I could bring it over here. But I'm gonna do it all at the end before we sew the bag all the way together. But this is where you would add a rivet if you wanted one. Beth, this is probably like perfect for you, right? Since you love the forest, love nature and hiking and all that kind of stuff. You're like, that sounds wonderful. Cottages are cozy, I do agree. But it's not really, it's just not the vibe I was going for. All right, so that's where the little pen mark would be for the rivet. All right, and then we're just going to repeat that process to attach the other hidden strap connector on this side. So I'm sliding that tab in. The bottom side is facing up about 1/2 inch. All right, and then I'm gonna sew above the tab right on the strap connector there. right, once you have that, then we're going to grab our, once I get this threaded again, there we go. All right, we're gonna grab our other D-ring and lay it down with the flat side on the inside. Push this other tab end through the opening again. All right, again, bringing that little tab with us to the back side. That's what it looks like from the front. So I'm just gonna hold it, kind of pull it snug to make sure it looks good and it matches the other side. And then I'm gonna put my finger in there, hold the tab as I flip the main panel back, and then bringing it over, I'm gonna stitch that side, the back side down as well. And then I'm gonna make the pen mark. All right, so actually I do think I'm gonna go over to my table. It's also a good option or good excuse for me to get up and stretch. I'm gonna go over and install these rivets. I will say that if you wanted to add a bag tag or a logo, you could put it here at the bottom or here at the top. I would come up or down about 1/2 inch, but of course you can put it wherever you like. But if you would like to add a logo tag of some sort, go ahead and do that now. And I will install these rivets and be right back. All right, so here's my panel with the rivets attached. All right, and then the last thing we're gonna do on this side before we move on to installing our bow on the other side is that we have to make this, we have to do a little cut to the side to make it match the shape of the lining. I'm sure you noticed that the lining is not the same size. It's a different shape. So what we're going to do is just lay it over the top of your bag. You will notice that the lining piece is a little bit taller than our exterior piece, and that's because we end up cutting a piece of this off to install the zipper. So when you're lining up your template for your exterior piece, you want to line it up with the bottom and let the top edge of the paper pattern piece hang over the top of your bag. Now I'm just going to draw a line, and then I'm going to come in and do mine, just trim mine with scissors. But I'm just going to trace along the side, and then I'm going to trace this bottom corner, and then same on the other side. You could do yours at the cutting table, but I'm trying to minimize how much I leave you guys. So I'm just gonna do mine here at the sewing table or the sewing machine. All right, so once I have that drawn on, I'm just gonna use my scissors and cut it out. My mom says she lost sound. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Can everybody hear me? You can hear me. Okay, Sandra can hear me. Good. Mom, did you have somebody text you or call you or something? Because that might have messed up your sound. Yes, Beth, Tracy. Okay, good. I just realized that I asked my mom a question, and if she can't hear me, then it's not gonna help. I cut out for a bit, but now I'm back. Okay, so hopefully it was just a, I don't know, Wi-Fi issue or something. All right, so here's my shape. This panel is now completely done, and we can set it to the side and make our bow. Let's make our bow panel. All right, so this one goes to the side. All right, so for that, let's just go ahead and grab our, just grab our centerpieces for now. We are gonna need our top and bottom band and our other strap connectors, but we'll grab those in a second. All right, so we have our side pieces and our centerpiece. So we're just going to use the centerpiece for now. And then we'll attach these sides after we get the bow attached to the center. All right, just want to make sure I'm holding this piece the right direction. So with our centerpiece, we're going to lay that down and grab our bow, and our bow is going to be wider than our centerpiece. If I hold it up, you can see there from the back side, it's wider. And that's just because we need to kind of spread the side of the bow out, and that kind of shrinks it down. But what we need to do first is figure out where we want the bow positioned on our panel. So just like we did with the hidden strap connectors, basically we're going to do the same thing with this. And that's how our bow is going to stay secured, at least until we sew on the side panels. This is how our bow is going to stay secured to the center panel. So what I will do is I will just kind of play with my bow, move it around, envision like, okay, I think that looks pretty good. I think I want it centered. You could want it a little higher, and maybe you want your bow to be a little bit more squished, like that, or maybe you want to spread your bow out so that it covers almost the whole height of the panel. So just kind of play around with it and figure out where you would like it to be. And then usually I like to put mine kind of pretty much right in the middle. And then I will look at, okay, so this is where my center part of my bow is gonna go. So what I'll do is I'll just take my pen and I know, like, I'll make a little mark like right behind the bow. So I know that's about the center of the bow in the back. Then we need to make another basically hidden strap connector opening. So I'm going to use, this is about 1 inch. It's a little bit wider. I think it's like 1 1/8, or let me see, 1/8 or 1 1/4. It's like 1 1/8. But I think you're fine if you don't make yours larger than 1 inch, because you know, it's all like 3D, so it'll all fit in there. But I'm going to use that little dot that I made, and I'm going to place the template right over top of that. So I drew that little mark like that, and it's the exact same process. So if you don't have the little template and you want to measure yours, you can just find where you want it to be. Again, it's 1 inch across the bottom, so 3/4 inch across the top, and then it's angled out to the side there. And then the height, excuse me, the height of this little box is 1/4 inch. And then we're going to, just like we did on the other one, we're going to cut on those lines, not cut it all the way out. We're just going to cut on those lines. Sandra, the bow is so fun to make. Like once you get it on, you're like, oh, it's so cute. It's so cute, I can't stand it. All right, so there we go. We've got that little cut again. And then we're going to slide it in. Mine is very snug. There we go. So I slid mine in, let me see. I slid mine through the hole about a little bit over 1.5 inches. It's overhanging, yeah, it's like a 1/2 inch overhanging the top. Now I didn't go halfway in, about halfway in like I did for the hidden strap connectors, because this bow has depth. So it has to go around the thickness of this bow. And if I put it in the middle, this piece might end up being super short, and it's going to make it really hard and or maybe even impossible to sew it down like we had to for the hidden strap connectors. So that's why you just want to make sure you have, you know, a little bit. I might even move mine up a teeny bit more. So let's see, I have, actually, what did I say it was before? I said it was about 1.5 inches, right? Now it's 1.5 inches. I don't know what I was thinking. It's about 3/4 inch over the top of the bow now, or over the top of the panel. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing here. We're going to sew on this strap right above where this little tab is. We're just gonna sew straight across here. Again, making sure we are in a stitch and we stop a stitch before the end. All right. The little tab is still up in the front. Now we're gonna grab our bow, place it right on top, and take this, slide it over the top, and then tuck it inside that opening. And again, we want to pull the tab through to the back. So this can be a bit of a struggle because you have all these layers, and like I said, the bow is thick. And there we go. Getting it in there. And my cut that I made for the opening is snug. Okay. It looks a little crazy right now, but there's mine. So we will work this and obviously work these sides of the bow after we get it secured to the panel, because that'll give us the opportunity to kind of move stuff around and get it to lay just how we want it to. But I am holding it on the back. So that little tab, we're going to do the same thing. So this part can be a little tricky because we do have this extra bulk. You want to pull this back out of the way and then stitch on this little tab, just like you did for the hidden strap connectors. We're going to back stitch starting and end. So we're stitching through the little tab and both straps, both ends of the strap connector. Or I guess in this case it would be the bow connector. All right, so now once you get your center bow connector sewn on, now you get to play with the bow, move it around. You can angle pieces, pull the tail down a bit. And the tail honestly doesn't always stay in place until the end. And there is another little trick that I will show you that I do at the end to kind of help these little tails to stay down. But for right now, they're probably just going to be wherever they're going to be. All right, so now what you want to do here, now that your bow is secured to the center panel, ignore your little tail. You can just kind of pull it out of the way, but figure out how you want your bow to lay on your panel. I usually like mine to go almost the full height. So keep in mind that we are attaching the top and bottom band, so you don't want to go all the way to the edge. You want to still stay in maybe 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch from that edge, because we are going to be sewing here when we attach the top and bottoms. So I'm going to come in at, I'm going to do mine at 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to add a clip right there at the top. And then same on the other side. I will measure 3/8 and add a clip there. And then same for the bottom. I'm going to try and pull this down, and I will show you in just a second what I mean about, let me get this to line up just right, about why we wanted the bow piece to be as wide as it was. So if you can see that, pretty much where the edge of that bow is and the side of my panel, it matches exactly. But like I said, if you look at it from the back, you see how much wider this panel is than our center panel. But we need that width so that when we spread it out, the ends still meet the end of the panel, right? So I'm going to now just do the same thing on this side. So I'm doing, on mine, I'm doing 3/8 of an inch in, or up I should say, from the top and the bottom. Okay, like that. That's how my bow's looking. I will have to do some little work on the tails, but there's the bow. So now we get to sew it down. How do we sew the sides, you say? That is the very interesting part. So we know that the rounded part of the bow is longer than our back panel. So what I will try to do is just kind of visualize where that is. And I'm going to hold my bow, and I'm going to hold these folds also. This part is a little tricky, I'm not gonna lie, because we're trained to want everything to lay nice and flat and be no buckles and wrinkles in our fabrics, right? So when we have to sew on this, you just want to, we're just sewing down the side, and you can keep your fabric, just kind of push it down, and there will be wrinkles. And it doesn't have to be perfect. One wrinkle can fold one way, one wrinkle can fold the other way. And it's gonna look amazing in the end. I know it might not feel like it, but that's how mine looks. And I just tried to envision keeping that straight line. So we're just basting it down. And then we're gonna do the same thing to the other side. I know this could be a little scary. The first time I did it, I was like, what? How am I sewing these folds? How? And you don't want to keep it straight, you know, when you first start, because then you're going to end up at one end of the bow with a million, like way too much material and too much folds. All right, and I think I might have, yeah, I did. Well, I got my folds folded down, but as you can see, I didn't quite catch this back panel, so I'm gonna go back over it and sew in a little bit more and catch that back panel. All right, there we go. So that is how mine looks sewn down from the back. Now we need to trim off this extra here on the outside of our seam allowance. So I am just going to use the back as my guide, the extra bow, like that. Okay, there's how mine looks. How's everybody doing? How are your bows looking? It's different for sure, but it ends up looking so cute. And once we put it together, like once we put the rest of the panel pieces together and we get the whole side built, you're gonna be like, oh my God, I love this. I love it. All right, once we get the bow sewn on, we're going to build the rest of the panel just like we did the rest of this side, just like we did for the other side. So we're going to attach the two sides, we'll attach the top and bottom, and then we'll put the strap hardware on. The only difference here is that we are not going to butterfly the seams open on this side. We're just going to fold it back and have the seam allowance going towards the side when we top stitch. Beth, I think you need to make a bow on your pajamas just so you can stay in theme. Beth is cutting out pajamas. Also, Beth, we need to figure out when we're going to do our video, our little live. Are we going to go live or are we just going to do it ourselves? We're going to make a hoodie. Well, Beth is going to make a hoodie and she's going to try to teach me how to make a hoodie. All right, so if you have your bows sewn on, we're going to grab our two side panels. And I'm going to start on the right side. And you can add clips. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. On this one, I will, because it's thick and bulky and we have those folds. So I'm just clipping it to the right side and I'm going to sew straight down that edge at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Here. I have a little section of thread that is wanting to shred on me, so let me fix that. Do. My thread doesn't want to go where I want it to go. All right, there we go. Now I'm just going to stitch down this again since it was starting to shred. All right, so once we get our side panels sewn on, we're going to push it open, push it flat, and then we're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch down this side. Again, we're not butterflying the seam, we're keeping it off to the side, and we're just going to top stitch. All right, while everybody is sewing, I noticed that I have 2 skipped stitches over where the fold is. So over that one and over that one, I have a skip stitch. So a real easy way to fix that, and I guess I lied when I said we won't need, well, I didn't lie. Let me see if I have a smaller hand sewing needle here. All right, you don't have to, especially on vinyl, you don't want to unpick your stitches because you're going to have holes there. So an easy way to fix a skipped stitch, and this doesn't always happen to me, actually this is the first time it's happened when making this bag, so you know, it's okay. But what you'll do is you'll take some of your thread and you'll thread it on a needle, and then what you want to do is you want to go up where that stitch is, trying to make sure I go in the right spot. I'm going to come up from the back through the hole, and then here, let me just grab, I'm going to grab one of my threads only. I'm going to come up through that hole, go on the other side of the thread, and then go back down that same hole. There we go. And then I'm going to cut the thread and tie it off on the back. And that's just enough to pull it down so that it looks like a regular stitch, and no one will know you had a skip stitch right there. All right, let me just take a look. And yeah, you can, I'm like trying to see where it is. Apparently it worked really well. So it's right in there. It's right where that fold is, but you can see how you can't even tell that there was a skip stitch there. Now I have another one right here. I'm going to fix that one again, or not again, but I'll fix that one really quick before we move on. But if you don't have any skip stitches, yay for you, and you can feel free to attach the other side of the panel. So I'll get my hole started so I know where it is. There we go. So I think to avoid that on the other side, just in case, I probably will just kind of extra push down on those folds as I'm sewing over them, just to make sure that nothing, you know, I don't have skip stitches on that side. And I also probably should have changed my needle before sewing today, but I didn't. Okay, got it. Tie this one down and we'll be ready to move on. If you've already sewn on your other panel, feel free to go ahead, and it's the same exact process to complete this side as it was the other side. So we're just attaching the other side panel, attaching the top and bottom, and then we'll put either the hidden strap connectors or the, yeah, that looks really good. You can't even tell. Yay. Okay, the hidden strap connectors or the strap hardware, whichever method you're using. All right, and then I'm going to add these clips again. All right, and then again, sewing this one on. Everything is at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, unless, that's kind of like my standard go-to seam allowance. Unless I state otherwise, you can just assume it's 1/4 inch. right, and then folding this one back. This is where I'm just going to take a little extra time to kind of press down those seams right where those folds are. All right, so hopefully I don't have an issue on this side. I think I might have had one. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, it's not horrible, but let me see. Let me look at it in closer light and see. Yeah, actually at both. At both. All right, well, it's all right. It's a quick fix, and I would rather do it right now and have it, you know, look nice in the end product versus not fixing them, thinking, oh, it'll be fine. And then that's all I look at, right? Because that's all I will look at. All right, so where was it again? This side, right? Yep. Right there. All right, once we get these panels made, I mean, this really is the most time consuming, especially with the bow. Once we get this made, we will be on to putting it all together. And it really does go fast after that point. All right, the other one right there. All right, that is the thickest, most perilous, I don't know if that's a good word, tricky, unknown part as you're sewing this together. Since you have the folds and you have the thickness and everything. So hopefully you did not use too thick of vinyl. All right, there we go. So much better. All right, so I'm gonna do the top band first. And I'm going to flip it over and sew along the top edge at 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, and then for this one, we're pressing this up, seam allowance on the back side goes up towards the top band, and again, just like we did on the other side, we're top stitching at 1/8 of an inch along this folded edge. There is the top band attached. Sandra, you're welcome about that trick for fixing skip stitches. That can be so frustrating and so disheartening, especially after you're doing all this. You're like, no, it's ruined, but it's not ruined. You can fix it. It's okay. It's just so frustrating though. And you definitely don't want to pull the stitches out if you don't have to. I mean, you can try to stitch in the same exact hole again, but that's tricky, and then often doesn't always, pretty much never, goes in the same stitches. All right, so here is, let me show you as we're attaching the bottom band. So I will show you on my silver bag. So this one, the little tails are free, and that's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave the tails free for my gold bag as well. But if you didn't want them to be free, you could just barely tuck them into that seam allowance. And then you could put them, if you wanted them to stay in the middle. Like I will clip these and show you. So I'm not gonna lay them flat because I want them to have a little bit of movement. And if we pull it flat, I think with the way the rest of the bow looks, it won't really look great. So actually, now that I'm looking at this, maybe I want to do it this way. Let me think about this. You can clip these in like that, and then you would have your bottom band here sewn on, so it would hold those tails. It would hold those tails in place wherever you wanted them to be. If you wanted your bow to be more secure and not have any sort of movement on your bag, you could do that. I like how this looks, but I like having the free bow tails. So I'm not gonna sew mine on, but as we flip this bottom band, we're gonna have to grab our tails and pull them up. Pull your tails up. So again, we're just we're stitching at 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then we're gonna flip that down and top stitch. All right, folding down and top stitching, again, keeping these tails out of the way so they don't get caught unless you purposely put them in there, and then you're good. So obviously, Mom, I have, you know, I have an industrial machine. That's what I'm sewing on right now. The Juki, are you talking about the thickness here on the sides for the bow? Or are you talking about the thickness on the top and bottom bands? I would assume you're talking about for the sides for the bow. An option that you could do with the Juki is, and this also helps if you have frustration, you could take like a rubber mallet or something and just pound those seams, just up and down, just pound it down, and that helps to flatten them a little bit. That might help with thick seams. Let me see. Is that it? Yeah, you could try that. Yeah, so the thick seams here on the sides. And then another option is maybe spreading out your bow like a lot. So it's almost no folds at the ends there. You know, you still have the folds in the center, but if you spread out your bow a lot, that might help as well. You might have to change the size a little bit, make it a little bit shorter this way. You know, like if you made another one. Or you could come over to my house and use my industrial. All right. So, strap connectors. I'm going to put those on. Same method that I did on the other side. So here we don't have, well, we have the side seam. We don't have a center seam because we didn't butterfly, but I'm just using right where that folded edge is. And again, 1/2 inch over, 1/2 inch up. And I'm going to mark we'll make a little mark on that. Same on that side, 1/2 inch over, 1/2 inch up. All right, so there are my marks on that side. And then it's going to be the same process. So I'm going to cut these holes. Cut the lines, I should say. They're not really holes. All right, and then I'm going to make both of mine. I'm gonna just kind of get them set up and make them both at the same time. I'm going to, let's see, make sure it's 1/2 an inch up. I'm gonna add a clip to make sure it stays straight. Half an inch up. All right, and then I'm going to sew right on the strap. Again, starting and stopping a stitch in from the sides on both. Just above the little tab. All right. D-rings. D-rings, or if you're doing strap hardware, go ahead and finish what you need to do to install that. All right, so sliding the D-ring on, pushing the tab through to the back side, bringing that little tab we cut with us. There we go. And then I'm just going to pull it snug, but not too snug. Flip it back. Stitch it down. Mom, I'm thinking about your thickness issue also. What kind of needle are you using? Do you know, are you using just like a standard needle, a Microtex needle, a heavy duty, or jean needle? All right, pulling that one through. All right, and then I'm going to sew the tab on the back of this one. All right, there are my two hidden strap connectors on. I'm going to mark the placement for the rivets, and then I'll again run over to my table press and put the rivets on. And then we will have our main panels done, and we'll be ready to put it all together. Yes, Beth said, where's the vinyl from too? It could be too thick for this project. Are you using the Luxe vinyl from Mormino, or is it does it have a thicker type to it? Because thinner vinyl does work better. Yes, I would say the Schmidt's nonstick 9040. I would probably jump that up to like a jean needle. Something that like a jean or a leather needle. I mean, that's going to give you bigger holes, but it's a little bit stronger. You could try that as well. And Tracy, you have one, and it got through the layers fine. Maybe it's the type of fabric. Yeah, where's your, let me know where your vinyl is from that you're using. And then I'm going to go and put my rivets on, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. There it is with the rivets. So now the last thing we need to do is, just like we did for the other side, is we need to trace that pattern piece so that we can cut this one so it's the same shape as the lining. All right, and this side can be a little more tricky because we have that bow. So again, we're just lining it up on the bottom edge, and then you want to make sure that it is centered as much as possible. And you can, if it would help, you can mark the center of your fabric and then use the center of the pattern piece so that you know you're in the center, especially since the bow does get this flat. Bodio. You're using Bodio faux leather. I have some Bodio. I'm trying to think. It might just be a little bit too thick. I mean, I'm a little thicker than the other stuff. Is it, Mom, is it the Bodio that we got from Sew Expo last year from the booth? Is it that stuff? That has like, almost like the linen look to it? Is it that kind of, that vinyl? Oh, you ordered it. All right. There is that one. I'll give everybody a few seconds to catch up if you are not at this point, and then we will be ready to move on. Clean up my table a little bit. The next step we're going to do, we need our 2 exterior pieces and our piece of stabilizer. So we're going to put this exterior together, and then this will be the last step for this part, for the exterior for now, and then we're going to move on to the lining. And the lining, like I said, will be super quick, especially since we are not adding any pockets or anything. All right, so with your 2 main pieces, you're going to flip them right sides together, and along the bottom where you have those little cutouts, we're going to line those up. And I'm going to clip these in place just because I've got that bow now, so it does add a little bit more bulk and makes it a little tricky. All right, so once you have that clipped, again, this is along the bottom edge. We're going to sew across this edge here at 1/4 inch seam allowance. right, once we have that, we're gonna open it up. We're gonna butterfly this seam open. So what I'd like to do, since we also have to attach the stabilizer base, is that I will use double-sided tape, because that's going to do two things here at the same time. So I'm using the 1/2 inch double-sided tape, and I'm stopping about 1 inch or so from the end, because I don't want it to go all the way to the end, because my piece of stabilizer doesn't go all the way, excuse me, doesn't go all the way to the end. So I'm just laying it right next to the stitch line. And then I'm going to open it up. Let's see. There we go. Remove the paper backing and then press this side down. And it only goes to about halfway up where the double-sided tape is. And that's because the other half of the double-sided tape, we're going to use that to hold our stabilizer piece in place so that we can sew it down. It is not, you could also use glue, I will say that. I would not use fusible, or if you do use fusible, don't fuse it to the vinyl, because it could do unfavorable things to your vinyl. All right, so that's how that is looking. And then the stabilizer piece, I'm going to center. It's about, the width here is about the same as the opening. So as long as you line it up there, you're good. And then you want it centered left to right. So I need to come this way a little bit. Yeah. And then I'm just going to make sure that bottom seam stays open, press it down. And then, like I said, since we had a little extra from the 1/2 inch stabilizer, or from the 1/2 inch double-sided tape, it holds our stabilizer in place, so we don't have to worry about it and fight with it, so that we can top stitch. So now we're going to flip it over, and we're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch down both sides of this bottom center seam. All right, there we go. Our exterior is complete for now. It's gonna look really cute. I'm super excited. All right, so we can set this to the side. We are ready to move on to the lining pieces. How's everybody doing? Do we need a break? Bathroom break, refill your drinks, anything like that? Or are we good to go? I'm good to go if you're good to go. Also, I don't know if you can do this on a live. Maybe not. I was wondering, can you pause it? Yeah, I think you can pause it anyway and come back if you did have to run out. All right, so let's just keep going so we get this done, right? That's my vote. All right, so we're gonna grab our 2 lining pieces, our 2 top band pieces, our zipper, zipper pull, and our little end tab piece. I'm going to put my other pattern pieces back in here. All right, keep my straps in there. Okay. So remember we cut these 2-inch strips yesterday because we wanted, these are going to be on the top inside of our lining panel. So they're going to be here at the top. So what we need to do with this lining piece is we need to cut off the top 2 inches of each panel. So we're just going to measure down, cut off the top 2 inches. I'm going to do this at the sewing table so I can use my long ruler and it'll be straight. But make sure you do it off the top, not off the bottom where we have the little triangles or the little squares cut out. So just cut off the top, and then those top 2 inches you don't need. You can scrap them or save them for another project, but I will be back with these bottom 2 pieces. Tracy, that happens to me all the time. I get started on a project without checking to see if I have the hardware that I want or that I need. And then I get it half done and I'm like, do I want to keep going and use what I have, or do I want to order and wait? And I usually order and wait. I'm like, why do I not check first? Why? It's frustrating. All right, so this, we're going to do the zipper. This is different than how I have it in the pattern. I find it a little easier to do the top stitching, the final top stitching, having the zipper done this way. So yeah, there's that. You can do it this way or you can do it the way that's in the pattern, but either way works. I just find, especially since the size is a little bit smaller than the original, it just makes that top stitching a whole lot easier when we don't have that tight little piece at the end. So we have our zipper length. We are going to split the ends, and actually, let me grab my mini stapler. I was thinking I could use a pin or something, but I always use my mini stapler, so let me just stick with what I know. All right, so we're going to fold down the ends at a 90-degree angle. And it's about, what I do here, let me staple this and I'll show you. I just fold it so that the top edge of the zipper tape is even with the side right here. So that ends up being about a ½ of an inch down, but that's how I measure mine. I just make sure that the top edge here, when it folds down, and you can see it from the back, it's even with the side of the tape. So we're going to do that to both sides. And then we're gonna separate the teeth. So we have two pieces. All right, so I'm gonna set one zipper lining and top band to the side. And we're just gonna work on this one side for now. All right. I don't know if you can see this very well because it's black on black, but we're gonna take the zipper and I'm going to measure in from the left side. Let's see, here's my ruler. I'm going to measure in at 1.5 inches in from the side. And then I have my zipper, I almost did it. I almost did it the wrong way and my zipper would have been upside down. All right, 1.5 inches in, and we're lining up the zipper, the straight edge of our zipper with the top edge of the panel, and the zipper teeth are up. So don't flip your zipper down like you would normally. You want the zipper teeth to be facing up. So it's almost like you're doing a recessed zipper panel, but you don't have the little gussets for that. We're keeping it right next to the side of the bag. Since this is a very narrow bag, so it's like that. Teeth are right side up, and then we have this long tail hanging off over here on this edge. All right, and then I'm going to take the top band, the extra piece that I cut, and this is going to be wider than the fabric a little bit, just barely wider. I would just match it up at the one end and then clip in place. Now I will say you could baste your zipper on first if you want to. I typically don't. I like to live on the danger side of things. All right, so now what I'm going to do is we need to measure in from the right side. So now I know my top band here is slightly, it's like 1/8 of an inch wider. So I'm just going to take that into account as I measure in. I want to measure in 2 inches. So let me go like 2.1/8 inches. And then I'm going to make a little tick mark. Okay, so like that. So all the way at the end here, and then I've measured down to here, 2 inches in from the right side, and I made a little mark. That's going to be where we stop, and we're going to pull this tail down. From this side, we can start right at the end, and we're going to across at 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we're just going to sew these 3 pieces together all the way down until we get to that little mark that we made. Once we get to that mark, we're going to stop with our needle down. Okay, so I'm at the mark, the needle is down. I'm going to take my zipper tail and pull it down. You can almost pull it to a 90-degree angle. You just want it down and out of the way. And then we're going to continue sewing across the rest of the way to the end. Okay. So that's what it looks like there. When we flip it up, you can see our tail. We have that extra there. And like that. So what we want to do is we want to flip it up, and we want the seam allowance to go up towards the top band. So I'm just going to press it with my fingers. And then we're going to top stitch right along this folded edge of the top band at 1/8 of an inch. Nancy, sorry, I just saw your question. So I said to cut 2 inches from the lining where the pattern piece at 85% is 1 3/4. Yes, and so you're doing the 85%. I would still do 2 inches. If you did 1 3/4, that's fine. You can use 1 3/4. It's not, that 1/4 inch is not going to make a difference. If you didn't, I wouldn't go any shorter than 1 3/4 because you're taking in that 1/4 inch. So it really starts to shorten that top band. And when you have the zipper there, it kind of just gets in your way a little bit when you're trying to top stitch. So yeah, if you did 1 3/4, you go with 1 3/4. If you did 2 inches, do 2 inches. Either way is fine. I'm doing 85% here, and I did the 2 inches. All right, and then once you get to where your tail kind of is loose here, just kind of pull it out of the way. Just make sure it should stay out of the way, but just make sure you don't top stitch that at all or get it caught on anything. All right, now you will see that I don't know how easy it is to see here on this example, but our side angles in and then this top band goes straight up. Same on this side, it angles in and then it goes straight up. So we're just gonna have to cut this little angled piece off here on this top band. So I'm going to make the other side and then I'll take it to my cutting table and I'll just use, you know, I'll lay the ruler down against it like that. And then just trim off this top edge here. And we'll do that on, it'll be all 4 ends once we get the other side made. And then when you're cutting this side, just make sure you keep that zipper tail out of the way so you don't accidentally cut that too as you're cutting this. You could also just take a ruler if you don't want to get up, which actually I might do. You can take a ruler and draw that line. It ends up being like that. And then just use your scissors to cut it off. There we go. Now it's in line with the side. So, and then I'm gonna do that anyway because I think it's easy. And then I don't have to worry about cutting the tail. Sometimes when you use like you know, a cutting ruler and a rotary cutter, it can get caught. All right, so that's the one side. Now we're going to do the exact same thing to the other side. All right, so lining is right side up. We're going to take our zipper and lay it teeth side up. And we are measuring in, it was 1.5 inches, right? Yeah. Just make sure I do the same thing on both sides. So I'm thinking of all the things and I don't want to say the wrong thing. All right, so we're measuring in 1.5 inches from the right side. And then we're going to clip that in place across. Again, if you want to baste stitch your zipper in place, feel free to do that. then top band, right sides down. I'm going to match it up at the right side. And then again, just clip all the way across. All right, now on this one, because we're going to be sewing with this side up, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to measure in 2 inches. And since I'm looking at the lining, I don't have to worry that the exterior is a little bit longer. So I'm just going to measure 2 inches from the right side, make that little mark. And just like we did on this one, we're going to sew all the way down, stopping at that mark. 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then when we get to that mark, we're going to pull the tail out of the way. All right, so I'm at that little mark. I'm going to grab my tail again, pull it towards the left, almost at like a 90-degree angle, and then I'm going to continue sewing to the end. All right, same step on this one. We're flipping that top band up and away, and the seam allowance is towards the top, and we're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch on the top band. All right, you guys will not even believe how close we are to being done. Once we get this, it really goes together fast. Like once we spend all that time on the exterior, we get to the lining, it's like, whew, done already? Because as soon as we get these, again, these top corners trimmed off so that the top band is even with the side, and we're ready to put it all, for real, put it all together. All right, here are our 2 lining pieces. So you can imagine the tails are on the opposite sides. When they go together, it'll be like that. Make sure, hopefully you did, double, triple check your teeth are right sides up. That way when we put it all together, your zipper will be on the right side and it won't be upside down. So here's our 2 linings. Grab your exterior. All right, and we are ready to put it together. All right, I'm so excited. All right, so think about, all right, this is how our bag is gonna be. I always like to say, think about how you're gonna wear your bag. Which side do you wear it on? Your right or your left? I usually wear mine on my right side. So if I'm wearing it this way, I want the opening to be here and not behind me. So I'm gonna start, I know here is where I want it to be opened. I'm going to start with the front panel. So I want this piece also on the right. And I want the tail hanging off to the left. All right, so we're gonna clip this in place across the top. All the way across, and let me see here. I think mine is a little bit off. And I think it's because, let me see, my lining is a little bit wider, and I think it has to do with the seam allowance that I made on the bow side. I'll see if it's the same on the other side. But if yours is a little bit wider, just center yours. See, I have a teeny bit on each side. I don't know if you can see that very well. So just center it. We went in enough from either side that that teeny little 1/8 of an inch is not going to make a difference. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to sew all the way across this edge at 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so that is sewn on. Now we're going to come to the other side and do the same thing. We're going to match these up right sides together. Let me see this side. Yeah, this side matches exactly. So I think it was just the seam allowance that I used on the bow side. You know, since the bow is a little bit more bulky, it was probably, well, not probably, it was a little harder to get those sides sewn on. So if yours is off a little bit, like I said, just go ahead and center it. It'll be fine. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing. Sew across this edge at 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm smiling because I know how close we are to done. It's so exciting, I can't wait. All right, we still have our zipper and our zipper pull. Don't lose those. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna open it up. So this is what it looks like. Okay, we're gonna fold it in half. So our exteriors are together and our linings are together. At the top, we're going to match up that center seam first. And then here, I'm going to nest the seams. And then, so nesting the seams right there, and then also right here. Let me just clip it in place and then I will bring it to the camera closer to show you. All right, right there, where that top band, your bag. And then down here at the bottom, this folded where the bottom band is, you want to match that up here. So I will match all of those up first. I'll do a clip on either side and then just clip on the sides. And then I'll come to the other side, exterior. I'm going to clip the exteriors first. So I'm going to nest again, making sure, since on this side the seam is going that way, this side I want the seam to go that way so that I don't have that weird twist in the middle. Again, matching up those side seams, clipping all the way down. I need to adjust. I'm going to adjust this side. Yep. Just slightly. I feel like there was a bit of a bubble. I want to make sure it's straight. Okay, that's good. All right, so that's how our exterior sides are. Now for our lining, we're going to do the same. So you want to match up here where your top band and your lining meet. So I'm going to clip that. And then we're going to clip all the way down the rest of the side. And then on this side, the same thing. I'm going to clip right there. But before I get too far on this one, let me see. I thought I had an idea anyway. Maybe I didn't grab it. I have a little woven label. So I just have my little name as a woven label, and I'm going to stick it in the side seam right here on the lining towards the top. So I want it just a little bit below. Wait a minute, let me double check. This is the tail end. Yeah, this is the tail end. So I want it on the open end. So I'm going to, let me just clip the rest of the way here. All right. Now for the bottom, we need to leave a turning opening here in the bottom. So I'm just going to clip 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and that will help me to remember to leave this part here unsewn so we can turn it through. All right, and then I'm going to come in over here, slide my little label in. And clip that. Okay, so that's how it looks all clipped together. We have the bottom here left open. What we're going to do now is sew the sides. So we're going to start at an exterior end. We're going to sew down at 1/4 inch seam allowance. When we get here to the middle, we're going to slowly increase to 3/8 of an inch and then sew the rest of the way down. 3/8 of an inch. Come over here, 3/8 of an inch, add a couple stop stitches right here so that it doesn't unravel when we turn it through. And then I'm going to come around to this other side and do the same thing, 1/4 inch down to the middle, slowly taper to 3/8 of an inch, down to this edge, and then across here, adding some stop stitches. Optionally, I'm going to add a second row of stitching to my exterior, but I will show you that once I get there, or I'll explain why once I get there. All right, so we're starting at our bottom exterior 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to add the second row of stitching here on this side before I move on to the other side. So the second row of stitching, I'll just do on the exterior here. And I'll do it just barely, just slightly to the outside, like toward the seam allowance of our first stitching. And I'm only going to do it on the exterior. Now that will do two things. It'll help to reinforce the side seam, and it will also help to prevent any stitches from pulling and being seen from the outside of our bag. So this is a total optional step, but I do think that it helps the end result look really nice. Okay, same on this side. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Yeah, Nancy, I really like this way too. Once I did it this way, I was like, I like this way better. It just made it easier for the top stitching for sure. So this is the side that I have the tails, the zipper tails. Just make sure that they are out of the way so you don't accidentally catch them in your seam allowance. I can feel them right here, so I'm good, but I've done that before, and it's terrible when you don't realize it until you're all done. You get to turning it through, and then you can't get to your zipper because it's caught in your seam allowance. Then you gotta turn your bag back through, pull it out, unrip it. Yeah. So just double check that, please. All right, now I can feel the tails down here, so I'm gonna move them up. Nope. I'm out of bobbin, I think. I can see it down there. Let me see. No, I still got some. Barely. All right. Across the bottom. All right, and then I'm going to add the second row of stitching just on the exterior on this side. Okay, so if you can see how close the two rows of stitching are, they're very close, almost right on top of each other, just barely slightly off to the side. Now what I'm going to do is just trim back some of the seam allowance right here at the joining of the lining and the exterior. I'm going to trim just kind of like a little like gully right there. Let me, here, I'm gonna do, I'll come up the lining and then I'll show you what I mean. So see how it just cuts in right there, right where that seam is? That's gonna help, and then I'll trim a little bit back on the exterior piece. So no more than 1/8 of an inch, or I should say no less than an eighth of an inch away from the stitch line. All right, so like that. But that little gully right there is going to help us when we turn it through in the top stitching, because that piece right there can get really thick. So if we can minimize as much as possible there, that's going to help us later on. All right, so for the lining, I'm trimming it back by about half. And then again, right where the lining and the main meet, the lining and the exterior, make that little gully, and then trim the rest to no more or no less than half of it, not a half of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so there you go. On the bottom, I'm gonna leave the seam allowance because we're gonna need that when we turn it through so that we can have a nice amount there for our seam allowance. Okay, now the last thing we need to do before we turn it through is to sew the boxed corners. So I will reach inside the bag just to help me push out those corners. It's up to you if you want to butterfly that side seam or just push it over to the side. It's not a lot, like I said, since we just trimmed it down, so you should be fine if you don't want to butterfly it. If you butterfly it, it'd probably be pretty difficult anyway, since it's such a small allowance. All right, and I'm just trying to match up that side seam with the bottom seam. All right, so like that. And then for the lining, same thing, just gonna box out those corners. And I'm nesting the seams here as well. Okay, one more side. This one goes that way, so just want to make sure that I'm nesting in the right direction. You want to make sure your bottom seam is nesting in the same direction. That way you won't have a weird turn on your bottom seam when you turn it through. All right, all 4 corners are boxed. Now we're going to sew the exterior at 1/4 inch seam allowance, the lining at 3/8 inch seam allowance. And if you want to, on the exterior, add that second row of stitching just barely to the outside of the first row, you can do that too. Alright, so I just did mine all at once. I stitched all the way down, and then I kind of moved over and back stitched and then came back down. So I did my 2 rows of stitching all at the same time. All right, and then the lining boxed corners are sewn at 3/8 of an inch. right, last step here before we turn it through is just to trim our seam allowances. So I'm just going to trim the exterior so it's even, probably trimming it to about 1/8 of an inch. And then the lining, just trimming it back by about half. All right. Now we are ready to turn it through. All right, so we have a nice big opening in the bottom. Just reach in, grab it, and turn it through. All right, that's how it's looking. Let's go ahead and push our lining to the inside so we can double check how it fits. All right, and I'm going to use these large clips here. I'm just going to roll the seams all the way around. And I'm going to clip this in place all the way around. We are going to top stitch this, and I will leave it up to you as to if you want to turn your bag inside out and top stitch from the outside, or if you want to top stitch from the inside. If you have a cylinder arm, I'm envious. You don't have to make that decision. All right, and I will say that if you struggle with thickness, Mom, and anybody else, right here at these side seams, hopefully when we trimmed that back, that should help you a little bit right there so it's not so thick and bulky. You also have the option, like I said, you could use a little hammer and just like pound that for a bit. Get your frustrations out. That could help as well. So I'm doing this here before we close the lining opening, because if you need to, if the seam is not rolling out for whatever reason, not the way you want it to or the way you would like it to, then you can reach in and kind of push it up. This side, for some reason, is being a little more difficult. All right, and then once we have that, we can push our lining in, see how it fits. I think mine is going to be perfect. Can't really tell because it's black, but it looks really good. So now I like to top stitch mine from the outside. So unfortunately I don't have a cylinder arm, so I have to turn mine through. I don't have to push it all the way out. I just have to turn it through enough so that I can get to the top. And that's also where these strong clips come in handy, because they don't pop off like the other clips, the little plastic clips can. All right, see, I don't have to push it all the way through. I just have to do it enough so I can get to the top. So let me move some stuff out of the way. All right, now I'm going to start top stitching, and I'm going to start at the seam, the side seam, towards the back first. So I'll be starting at the side seam here, sewing along the back, and then coming around the front and finishing that way. The clips. So I got the clips from Amazon. I think they're called, like, actually they're laundry clips. If you look for large laundry clips or metal laundry clips, and they have these little rubber little covers, those little end covers, and they don't leave marks in your vinyl, which is great. If you need to like leave something to shape it out for a while, you won't come back to marks in your vinyl. I can put the link in the video description for these clips, and I can also put it in my group if you want me to. All right. Whew. Time to top stitch. So just go real slow. We're top stitching at 1/8 of an inch. Anywhere that I will go slow, it's in the top stitching, because that's like, I feel like that's the last piece, and that's the piece you want to look really good and the piece that everybody's gonna see. So far so good. I don't want to jinx myself, but it's looking good. All right, got it top stitched. Those side seams were not a problem for me. I think that really did help to do that little like gully there at the side. Tracy, if you're adding a zipper pocket, would you still place it at 1.5 inch down from the cut edge of the lining? 1.5 inches down. Hold on, let me take a look. I would say between 1 inch or 1.5 inches. Like, I'm looking at it right here. I don't know if you can see that. That's 1.5 inches down, would be right there at the end of the ruler. So, hold on. Yeah, 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches right there. So, I think 1.5 inches would be good still, because once you get the zipper open, you could make it a little shorter if you want your pocket to have a little more room, but I think that's up to you. Alrighty, almost done. Okay, so we're pulling out the lining. Now we got to close the hole in the lining. Put our zipper pull on. Put our straps on and we're done. Well, the little zipper end tab too, of course. But we are so close. All right, so let me grab some more clips. I'm just gonna clip, so I'm just folding in this bottom edge here of the lining according to the seam allowance. And clipping it in place all the way across. Okay, so I've got that clipped all the way across. Now we need to sew it closed. I'm going to sew starting and stopping at probably about 1/16 of an inch. That's usually what I like to do. Pretty much as close as I can get to the end of the panel, but still making sure I catch both sides. So the reason I like to do that is because it helps to make it helps the lining to lay flatter on the inside. If you have a larger seam allowance here along this edge, when you push it down, that bottom seam will stick up inside your bag a little bit. So I'm going to try to sew as close to the edge as I can get. Alright, so that's about how close I was to the edge there. Now we just need to stuff it back in. Yeah, that fits really well. That looks really good. And my little label is barely visible. It's hard to see because it's black and black. Look, there it is right there. I'm like, where did it go? It's like right in that seam allowance. All right, so last thing we have to do is attach our zipper pull. So grabbing your long zipper tails, we're going to attach the zipper pull. You can use a zipper jig here if you prefer. I'm going to try just with my hands, see how that goes. Nope, that's not even. My hand feels shaky, and I think it's from the fact that, hold on, let me check this zipper again. I did a hand lettering class yesterday, and I think I mentioned it to you guys yesterday. My hand feels like sore, tired. All right, hold on. I'm gonna get a different zipper pull. This one is acting funky for some reason. All right, let's try this one. If I can get the plastic off. There we go. But it was funny in that class because she was like, don't think of it as like writing. Think of it as more as of like art or, you know, drawing. So it's like we're writing letters. You know how to write letters, but for whatever reason, it feels like, what? How do I write an A again? All right, let me get my zipper jig. My hand just does not want to work at this point. Let me try my original zipper pull and see if it was just the way I was putting it on. Yep, it was just me. All right, so zipper pull is on. Now, zipper tail is this long. We are going to tuck this zipper tail inside the bag. So it doesn't need to be this long. It can. There's nothing that says that it doesn't, it can't be, but I don't think I want this long of a tail hanging inside of my bag. So I'm just cutting off about half, which is, was about 3 inches. About 3 inches I cut off. And then I'm going to take the zipper end tab and I'm just going to fold it in half right over the end of my zipper. All right, I'm going to add a clip. And then I'm going to sew across this edge here, this raw edge. I'm going to sew straight across here at 1/8 of an inch. All right, just like that. Now I'm going to slide that zipper tail inside the bag like that. Look how cute it is. Look how cute it is. Ooh. All right. Now, let me grab my handles. And I don't have gold chains. I might look for gold chains. I don't have gold chains right now. I have these acrylic. They're kind of like a marble. You can see like a cream color with marble, a marbling look. I'm just gonna clip these on. So, like I said, these are the ones I'm using for now. We'll see if I like them or if I want to get chains, but I thought, there it is. There is my bag. It's so cute. It's so cute. And then inside, zipper. I was like, what is that shining? I could see it in the camera, like, what is that shining in there? The zipper tab end. All right, so this is the holiday Stirling with the bow. I love it. So cute. Thank you, Tracy. All right, I'm gonna move the camera back up again so you can see me. All right, hello. There we go. Now you can see it. This is the 85% size. So I have silver and gold. Which one do you like better? Do you like one better? I don't know. They're both really cute. I might be a fan of the silver. I usually go for silver more than gold anyway. But I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So thank you. Hey, Rebecca. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So here is our holiday Stirling. Now, this was the thing the little challenge that I was going to announce. I did not forget, so I'm glad I didn't forget. And hopefully you guys want to let me forget anyway. But, all right, so I thought, what could we do? The last time I did a holiday so long, we had a bunch of people, everybody that made one submitted their photos, and I just did a huge collage and put it as like the header in my group, and like that was super fun, but it was a lot of little tiny pictures, so it was hard to see everybody's bag, I thought, in the banner for the group. So this year I thought, all right, if you make a holiday Stirling and you add a bow, I don't care what it looks like, I don't care what material you used, just if you participated, if you made a bag, I want to see it. So post a picture in my group, and then what I'm going to do, and I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do it as like a random draw, or if I'm going to get some of my testers involved and help me pick, or have them pick. Rebecca, Beth, I'm looking at you too. And so just to have like a random drawing, just a fun thing. And so the prize will be something that I can't quite tell you yet. It is something that is coming. I think it'll be a really fun prize. It will be announced December 15th. So I'll be able to tell you what the prize is on December 15th. But some of my testers know what it is. They know what's coming. So that might give you a hint, a little bit of a hint. Yeah, so December 15th, something will be announced, and that will be the prize for participating, just for fun, just a for fun thing. So if you are interested in whatever this prize is going to be, post a photo of your bag, even if you don't get it finished. Post a progress photo, that's fine too. Just post it by, let's just say post it before Christmas. That'll be the easiest way for me to be able to do what I need to do by the end of the year. And that's all I can say. All right, so here it is one more time. Woohoo, the holiday Stirling, hip hip hooray. Thank you so much for joining me today and yesterday. Thank you for participating. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for spending, what is it, what time is it? 2:20, 3.5 hours with me today. Thank you for that. I know that weekends are valuable and your time is important, so I really appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed, I have a huge favor. As of this morning, I am 5 away from 5,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and that is a huge goal that I set for myself by the end of this year. It's been a slow road, but I'm getting so close, I can taste it. So if you haven't already, please make sure you're subscribed. That would be fantastic. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet when I hit 5,000, but it'll be fun and exciting for me. I won't record it probably. All right. I guess that's it. Let me see. I'm just going to check the notes one more time to see if there's any questions. Gold, both. Yes, both. I love them both. Yeah. I might look at a gold chain. Oh, one more thing. I was going to tell you a little tip that I had for helping these to kind of shape down. So what I will do is I will take one of these strong clips and I will just clip it on the end of the tails, and I will leave it sitting like this for a couple days probably. If I'm not going to use it right away. If I need to use it, obviously I'll take it off and then I'll just put the clip on later. But holding it down like this, you could even use a little hair dryer and kind of warm up this area and keep the clip on. And then when it cools, it'll want to hopefully hold its shape down here so that you know, your tails aren't going right out to the side, but they're kind of going down. So that was my little tip on shaping, and I guess that's it. All right, guys, again, thank you so much. This was super fun, and happy holidays. I hope you all have wonderful holidays. Whatever you do, if you celebrate, if you don't celebrate, I know it's hard for a lot of people this time of year, so just know that I'm super thankful for you, and I'm glad you're here, and I guess that's it. All right. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye.